Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. As the bells are ringing, which is great, cleaning the energy, I want to start this video with something what Polish government is doing as a response to enormous loss and devastations in so many regions of Poland affected by the flood. And if I am not mistaken, the storm that took place over certain regions in Poland, south of Poland, as well as Slovakia and Czech Republic, the name of it was Boris. Isn't it interesting how they name those storms and other natural disasters? So when you say Boris, who comes to your mind? Just saying. So another interference here, perhaps, but I want to tell you about the response. You will not believe, well, probably you will believe, how Polish government is reacting to this devastation, how the government is helping the victims of that flood that destroyed the houses, the businesses, the crops. Just to mention the Polish farmers who have been on strike for a very, very long time, and the government was trying its best to stop those strikes. And here we have the situation. So let's get to this. The Minister of Climate and Environment, this is the name of the ministry, announced a loan. Yes, everyone, a loan for flood victims. Are you ready? We will allocate about 100 million zloty, Polish zloty, you can do the exchange rate if you want, for low interest loans at the level of 1.5% to 2.5% to eliminate the effects of the flood, said Paulina Henning, I miss Kloska, who is a Minister of Climate and Environment. I'm speechless. And so are millions of Polish people. And as the victims of those floods have been recording videos and putting them all over social media, saying how the politicians came over, took some pictures, some snapshots, stood over a destroyed, damaged bridge, and literally did nothing. So people are helping people. That's how the situation looks like. Meanwhile, Polish government is offering a fantastic loan. You remember when in 2022 Ukraine had a problem? Like that. The money went to support Ukrainian refugees. And where the F is the money now for Polish citizens? I'm not going to go into details since, as you know, I am not an expert, and most of us are not an expert of, first and foremost, how they manipulate the weather. That's one aspect. Second, how they could prevent that from taking place, if that could be prevented. Maybe there is such a form of manipulation that you can't prevent because they can manipulate around the protections that have been put into place. God only knows. But this is truly disgusting, low life, disrespectful and disgraceful. And do people learn anything from that? We have this saying in Polish language. I will translate this, but let me tell you this first in Polish language. You know those old wisdoms that the elders used to repeat? Umiesz liczyć, licz na siebie, which means if you can count, count on yourself. Now, I won't tell you here the comment of the day. Well, let's save it for the end of this video, because let's go to President Putin. Two things about President Putin. The first one is Putin orders Russian army to become second largest after China. President Putin has signed a decree that officially increases the number of personnel in Russia's armed forces to almost 2.4 million people, including 1.5 million servicemen, RT reported. The latest increase comes after a similar decree in December 2023. At that time, President Putin boosted number of employees in Russian military to just over 2.2 million. Putin also instructed the Russian government to allocate the necessary funds for defense forces. The number and personnel in the Russian army will go up to 2,389,130 people, RT News reported. So there you have it. Someone put a comment, which, people put different things, but someone put the comment that I say Putin and I should say President Putin. When I say Putin, I don't say it with disrespect, but that's how you very often call the president. You just say President Putin, or you say, like you said with Biden, or you said, well, with Biden I would, and you say with Trump, President Trump. So if you are so touchy, maybe my channel is not for you. If you don't understand what approach I have towards President Putin, then perhaps just skip those videos and go somewhere else. And on that note, let's do a quick test here, everyone. Let's put in the comments down below, because many of you sometimes are afraid to leave the comments, and I understand this. If you support President Putin, put in the comments just the letter P. And if you don't, put N. Simple as that. So we do our little statistic, our little poll on my channel. Now, let me tell you what's going on, because as you know, there is a decree that has been signed by President Putin not a long time ago to help the foreigners who align with the values that Russia stands for: traditional values, family values, culture, education, gender, etc., etc. Those people will have it easier to move to Russia, to protect those values, to preserve them, and to live there and make a new life in Russia, because the Western values no longer align with them. So that decree has been already signed, and I've addressed this in a solo video, as well as I've asked about it one of my favorite guests, Andrei Martyanov, who addressed this as well. However, since I happen to know someone in the position of having a little bit more information directly from the source, I'm not from Mr. President Putin's source, but from the operational source, I was told that this visa, I'm just looking for the article, this visa will be for 3 months. So what's gonna happen is this, before I go to the speech that Putin gave a few days ago. That visa that will be given to those people who want to move to Russia, the foreigners, will be for 3 months. It's a different kind of visa, right? During this time, when you have this visa, you will be able to, find your place and try to settle, at least in the beginning, with your life there. After those 3 months, you are eligible to apply for, I'm not sure if it's permanent or temporary residency, but you can apply for the residency, and it's a different process than normally it would be, that takes much longer. So you have that. Then you have 3 years in which period of time you have to learn the language, because what makes this visa different, this move different, is that you don't have to know Russian right away. They give you, as I understand, 3 years, which I think that is the temporary residence permission. And within this period of time, you have to learn the language. I don't know what other things are required, but that gives you more grounding in the country. And I think you also have the permit, you can work in Russia legally, right? So this is as much as I know. I also know that they are still working on the list of the countries that will be included in this visa process. As soon as I know the exact countries, I will be recording a video and giving you the information. I am myself in the process of waiting for hearing that, because if this will be the case, you know what I'm going to do. And if not, then I will be applying for a tourist visa again. So, with this being said, that speech that Putin gave in St. Petersburg during the Forum of United Cultures is something that addressed that move, foreigners moving to Russia as well. I'm going to read this to you because what I believe many of us don't really pay attention to is not snapshots of what Putin says, but the entire speech that he gives. I know sometimes when he goes 2-3 hours long, not everyone has that much patience to listen to all of it. However, this is not this long, and it gives you a wide spectrum, context of what to expect and what is the direction that Russia is taking on the foreigners coming to the Russian Federation and blending with Russian citizens there. So, this is all President Putin now. From the 10th time, our northern capital has hosted cultural envoys from various countries of the world. Each such a meeting, like culture itself, reflects the spirit of the times. It raises the most important, acute and significant issues. The Forum of United Cultures is one of the meaningful responses to the complex challenges that countries and people face today. Its very name recognizes the civilizational diversity of the world, the natural right of people to identify, respect of traditional values and religions, and of course, the unconditional equality of states in shaping the global cultural agenda. These approaches and principles were recorded in the declaration adopted at the Forum last year. Their relevance in our time is higher than ever. The importance of humanism and dialogue, mutual respect and trust in the world is shared by the global majority, but unfortunately it is under constant pressure and the threat of erosion, primarily due to the unprecedented politicization of the cultural sphere, due to its transformation into a weapon of geopolitical intrigue, due to constant attempts to push the sidelines of life, to belittle the importance of national value systems, everything that does not coincide with the agenda promoted by the so-called globalist elites and the ruling circles of some states. In Russia, we have defined our main values. We have enshrined them in the basic law of the country, in the constitution. This is something what Andrei Martyanov very, very often mentions, guys, and I know you know that if you follow Andrei. We protect these values, and all who share them, who like us, consider the sacred right of people to speak their native language and keep the faith of their fathers, to live in harmony with nature according to its natural laws. Here we go. Just yesterday I recorded a video about the weather manipulation. To its natural laws, since the result of these efforts, without any exaggeration, will determine both the future world order and the prospects of culture. We are convinced that culture should and can exist without gross interference, without the so-called cancelled culture, that is the cancellation of culture itself. It is not for nothing that diplomacy is called an art. We say the same in Polish, sztuka dyplomacji. Yeah. To master this art, you need not only knowledge and talent, Diplomacy is also a culture of action, emotions, speech. So, such a good statement here, right? Diplomacy is also a culture of actions, emotions, and speech. I love this. It is this that gives an understanding of what can and cannot be said and done in order to avoid irreparable consequences. Culture has always been a kind of fuss for the world. It seems that in a number of countries this fuss has burned out. I think I pronounced it correctly. F-U-S-E. Fuse? Fuss? I think fuss. Many modern high-ranking politicians have lost their moral boundaries. They violate taboos that remained even during the most tense moments of the Cold War. In countries where such elites rule, citizens gradually accept first xenophobia and then extreme forms of discrimination, persecution on national, ethnic or religious grounds as a given. We all know how quickly the dehumanization of ruling regimes occurs in such a situation and what consequences this leads to for specific families, people, and of all ages. We see this. This is going to the decree. This is why the decree of the President of Russia on providing humanitarian support to people. So this decree that he signed, that's what he's referring to for the foreigners. This is why the decree of the President of Russia on providing humanitarian support to people who share traditional Russian spiritual and moral values was recently signed. We are not fighting against any other values, we support our own. This is where the difference in approaches between us and our opponent lies. And this decision was made in response to a growing flow of requests from countries where people are essentially deprived of freedom of choice. Isn't it so? Yeah. Mainly, we are talking about families with children towards whom local authorities imposed perverted ethical standards. You know, in Poland it's already happening too. It's not to this extent like in United States. I remember, before I continue, when I already saw those videos, I remember it was from Texas, now it's in many places, the drag queens shows, runways, and 5-6-year-old children being introduced to this. In Poland, we already have, to much smaller extent, but we already have this kind of agenda getting into the schools. So just so you know, I mean, we shouldn't be surprised because we are American prostitute, right? Prostitutes too, because American media is in full steam ahead in Poland. There are also many requests from cultural figures who, by the way, do not want to feed their creativity into the Procrustine, I don't know this word, bed of quotas and criteria to create with an eye to compliance with alien neoliberal standards. These standards are actively replaced by some media, forming the so-called mainstream. If the author is interested in his work appearing on stage or screen in order for it to be published, then he is obligated to follow this mainstream. And if in these works, or even in private statements of a writer, director, actor, there is a flash of dissent, doubt, then persecution and cancellation await him. Moreover, we increasingly see how the value agenda promoted by Western elites ignores and sometimes deliberately insults global religions and cultural traditions of entire regions of the world. I mean, the opening of the 33rd Olympic Games in Paris, right? There you have it. I am sure that most countries and people, of course, do not like such approaches. They see the future of culture in mutual respect and trust in equal international cooperation in this area. By hosting the forum again at a difficult time for us, we are firmly convinced of the vital need for a dialogue of cultures. Dear friends, your voice must certainly be heard. Intrusive propaganda is powerless in the face of these arts, because those who serve it, who actively feel the nerve of the era and the needs of the society, they can distinguish between true and false values. They can understand who, with their hearts, advocates for peace, prosperity, and friendship of peoples, and who hides self-interests, superiority, destructive plans, and their own exclusivity behind the right words. Such a simple, good, on point. Your creative, scientific, and educational, and their own exclusivity behind the right words. Your creative, scientific, Your creative, scientific, and educational activities have enormous potential for peacekeeping and counter-reacting discord. This preserves connections between people. It can heal the wounds caused by conflicts and wars. Therefore, it is important that you have the opportunity to communicate, exchange ideas, and implement joint projects. Russia is one of the most multinational countries in the world, and we are sincerely happy to provide such a platform for you, including within the framework of our and your forum today. There is more. We know that the key to the development of cultures is constant interaction and mutual enrichment. We know what a powerful creative force lies in the unity of different cultures and traditions. This unity is the source of our national identity, such fundamental values of our people as mutual assistance, justice, mercy, historical memory, and continuity of generations, strong family, patriotism, and citizenship. So I almost read you this entire speech here because I think it's very, very important that we pay attention to what President Putin says. And this was just another confirmation of that decree that he has signed it's already official, is going to take place, and you will see a huge flood of people moving to Russia and starting their new lives there. And fingers crossed, I will be among one of those people. Now I have a comment of the day for you from yesterday's video, in which I was addressing, besides the weather manipulation, the situation in Greece, and Greek people being the second poorest in Europe. Bulgaria apparently is number one, Greece is second. And someone who is from Greece, and your name is Denis, thank you Denis for your comment. You left a very good comment, because you're from there, and I always appreciate people who live in the countries that I mentioned, the insiders who live their lives in those places, that we can only had a little bit glimpse of understanding what's going on. You left the comment about situation in Greece. From Denis, Anya, living in Greece, I can say that you are spot on about the Greek economy. The poverty levels are increasing on a daily basis. More and more young people are immigrating to Western Europe and to the Anglo-speaking countries around the world. A large number of young people that remain turn to all sorts of criminal activities to survive. They are using weather control against the Greek agricultural sector. The farmers are expecting the biggest drought in a long time, especially this September, when the rainy season is supposed to begin. Chances are we will have flash floods for the remainder of the autumn and during the winter. Not to mention that we had huge forest fires that this summer that were started by, I don't know the name, Arsonist. The lying Greek government claimed that the fires started due to climate change. I mean, guys, that's all I have for you today. Please hit this like, it's free of charge and it really helps the channel to grow. Thank you very much for subscribing. If you are watching my videos frequently and you haven't subscribed yet, make sure to do it because it's also free of charge and more people can see the videos since YouTube recommends them to others. Also, leave the comments down below. Remember, today we have a little quiz, a little poll. If you support President Putin, just put P in the comment. And if you don't, put N, that you don't. No. With this being said, thank you so much for watching. The links to what I read you, including the speech, the entire speech that will be in the video, I will put down below in the description box. I'm sending all my love and support to all the Polish families that have been affected by this enormous natural disaster or orchestration of the disaster. And I would like to thank all of you for supporting me on other platforms, for all your donations that you give. I am enormously grateful. With this being said, lots of love, and remember, we are the leading edge and we are saving humanity. Bye everyone.